Righty, so hello everybody. I'm going to start off with a little bit of housekeeping so you're all familiar. I've probably said this before and you've probably attended a lot of webinars recently and have heard a few of these things before. Firstly, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you, I cannot see you. If you wish to ask any questions, Zoom comes with a brilliant Q&A function. There is a chat function, but I don't particularly check it. The Q&A function is the best one if you wish to ask any question. Although to those people who have sent me messages, hello, and thank you very much also, using chat. There's going to be 3 sections to this. I'll take you through those in a minute. There is going to be a little bit of, well, web-based audience participation. Don't worry, again, I won't be able to see or hear you. And I see from the stats that no one has left upon that announcement. That's good to know. For the audience participation part, you'll need your phone or some other machine of some kind, just something that can go to a website, because I'm going to ask you to answer just a couple of questions so I can customize this based upon who we're talking with. About myself, my name is Dan Ellis. Hello. I work for EPX Technical Services as CEO. I am a techie, but I'm trying to make sure this isn't going to be too technical. I am a very, very massive advocate for remote working. I've made a bunch of posts over the last couple of years on, you know, look where I'm working from today. It's a cafe, it's a bar, it's a restaurant. I do enjoy remote working, and our whole team in my company is remote working. We started, the entire company went remote about a week before it was, before the announcement, and it became law. We've helped a lot of other companies with their remote working tech. We're working on the basis that the isolation will be with us for some time. So that's really important. We're working under that basis. And this presentation is based upon the fact that we'll all be isolated for some time yet to come. The original estimates were we'll review it in 3-4 weeks. I'm not 100% sure about that. There are all sorts of evidence in other countries. I'm just going on to the basis that this will probably keep going. If I'm wrong, great. So what we're going to try and do today is, here's a nice little graphic I pulled off the web. There it is. Now, don't worry, you don't need to read it all. I'm just going to take you on the highlight. This shows the fear zone, the learning zone, and the growth zone, where I want to be during COVID-19. So we've already seen a lot of the fear zone, people buying a lot of toilet roll, and you know, you get some anger because there's fear in business and people are taking that out on people. There's a lot of stress. We're moving to the learning zone. Many people are way past that already, but the learning zone is we're going to stop being impulsive about things. We're going to verify our information, let go of things outside of our control. Now, the areas in the growth zone that I want to talk about, finding a way, I find ways to adapt to changes. That's what we're all doing. We've all been doing that incredibly. We're seeing a lot of that. Focusing on the future, we're doing a lot of that in our company. We're advising our customers the same. This is all about working out what is the next year going to look like for us. And finally, the other one I want to talk about is using skills to help people in need. We're trying to help out people as best we can. There will be a link at the end to the webinar that I delivered a week or 2 ago, which had a lot about looking after your staff, making sure everyone's comfortable, being sensitive to the fact that some people are going to be stressing right now. So that was covered in the previous one, and you're welcome to peruse that if you wish. There's a recording. But for now, we're focusing on the future and adapting to change. The topics that we're going to be covering today are, number 1, this is a bit of a recap. It's going remote, helping the team to do their jobs from home. A lot of you will already be doing that. You'll already be covering that. You'll already be there. Fine. But I'm just recapping some information because it does put things into context. Next, security. Good security while remote working. How to make sure that now you've opened up your whole company to be accessed from anywhere in the world, how to make sure you're doing that safely. And next, what next? The long term. What if this becomes the new normal? What are we going to do about it? How can we make our companies thrive? This is all from a slight technical point of view. But again, I'm trying not to be too technical. Right, so this is the audience participation part. Only takes a couple of minutes. I would ask if everyone could get their phones out, please, or other computers, whatever you may have. Let me just bring this slide up. So that is the website menti.com. So right at the top of the screen, it says, please go to menti.com, which I'm going to do on my phone. So www.menti.com. If you go there, and then it says use that code. So what comes up on screen should be something a little like that. You can just see in a little window there. Please enter the code. So I'm going to enter that code. So 167364. Beep. So I've done that. And when you've done it, your phone should present you with a little thumbs up icon. If you could just hit that, I'll know how many people are through. I'm going to press it. Whoa, yeah. 4, 5. I'm going to press it again. 7. So people are getting this. So www.menti.com, and then enter that code that you see there. You don't all have to press the thumbs up. I just thought it was quite interesting to know how many people are comfortable with this. So let me see. I've used this so far for some pub quizzes that I've held online. It's a nice presentation tool. It allows people to interact with a presentation. There are going to be 4 questions that I'm going to be asking of people, so I know vaguely what sort of companies that I'm dealing with, what your personal situation is. You'll be able to give me some information. It's all multiple choice, dead easy. I'm just going to go on to the first question now. So first question is, did anyone see the webinar a week ago? I want to know how briskly to go over some of the sections. Okay, cool. It's building up. Okay, so a few of you have seen it, but largely you haven't seen it, right? So the first section, going remote, which is to come, I will go over that in a little more depth than I would have. Apologies to those who have seen it before. So the next slide, what is your size of company? I would like to know vaguely what size I'm dealing with so I can tailor advice as best as I can. Cool. Yeah, it doesn't need to be precise, just approximate is good to know. No, this is fantastic. Great info. So we got a real good spread there, actually. It's a good cross section. Okay, and the next one. How many people in your company are currently remote working? And yeah, okay, it's a bit arbitrary, this. Just about everyone, that's like 90% or more. All the other options have disappeared now. Wow, this is really good. Just about, ooh, more than half. There's some there. Okay, there was a box to say none of us, and I'm quite proud of you. Okay, so that's some good information as well. It shows that pretty much 3/4 of us, just about 3/4 of us, are completely remote working. 21% are most of you remote working, and only 7% are just a few of you. Okay. And is this the last question? I think this might be the last question. Yeah, what computers does your colleague use to remote work? Their home computer, their work computer, or a computer that you bought specially for this remote working situation? Because it is quite important knowing whether you're using the computer that you normally use for gaming and TV to do your corporate work. Oh, normal work machine, that's good. Okay. There is going to be a little section on cybersecurity later on, and I'm quite proud to see a tremendous amount of people are using work machines for this. So that's really quite powerful. That's a useful thing. So well done. Ones with home computers, that's also often very, very necessary. It's what we've got available to us. It's not something I recommend, but it happens. And a computer bought specially for remote working, that's good. That's dedication. That's impressive. Okay, I think there's one more. Yes, how often are you meeting with your colleagues? So that could be an all hands, that could be regular telephone meetings, that could be little conferences, that kind of thing. If it's not at all, just say a few times a month, by the way. other soft drinks are available. Okay, fantastic. Really great. A massive component of this, a massive component to sort of good mental health, good company well-being, good visibility is collaborating with your team, communicating with them often. I recommend speaking with your colleagues as much as possible. I'll explain a little more about what we've done later on. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm pretty sure that's the end of the audience participation section, but thank you very much for filling those in. I'll switch back over now to presentation. Okay, so this is the first section, which is going remote. This is if you are not currently remote working completely, how you would do it. And again, I know a lot of you are working remotely, but this section can be relatively short. There's some new stuff in here, some useful stuff for you too. So if you are trying to figure out an effective way of turning your company and your organization into something where you can completely work remotely, this is how you can use your computers day to day, not necessarily deliver the service that you deliver to your customers. This is just how you can sit at your computer every day and have it work. That's what we're covering here. So first step is to make a list, job role by job role, of all the what we call services, and there's a list in a second, all the services that your business uses, the software tools that your business uses. Make a list of them, and here's going to be some common ones. So email, that's a really classic one. Everyone uses email. File sharing, how you access your files, your customer database, your CRM, your phone system. No, I got ahead of myself there. I was looking at the wrong screen. Your phone system and your line of business systems. Now, just to give you an example of a few of these, email. If you can access email on your phone, brilliant. Then you can access it outside the office. If you can access it on your phone and not your computer, there is a way of sorting that out. It's not a problem. File sharing, that could be like Google Drive, SharePoint. Maybe you have a server in your office that you may have brought home. That's how you access that. So file storage on a server, SharePoint, Google Drive. Those are the really, really common ones. Dropbox is also on there. Sorry, I mustn't forget that. Your customer database, that could be Act, that was quite a popular one. Salesforce.com, Sugar CRM, Zoho CRM. There are loads of them out there. Accounts package, Sage QuickBooks Zero, that covers about 90% of the market. There are all sorts of accounts packages in the world that we all use. The phone system, figuring out what to do with that, we'll cover that in a little bit. And line of business systems. These are normally the most tricky if you have a very, very specific piece of software just for your industry. Examples like a booking system for a dental practice. That was a nice one we saw a while ago, or a job management system, an MRP system. These are normally the trickiest things to move remotely. And this first section is going to cover some basic ideas of how to cover all that, which again, you may already have covered, but I'm just going to go over it again to make sure everyone's up to the same level. So here are the main methods that we've been seeing companies use so far to do to run their normal computer systems from home. Firstly, they've picked their server up and they've taken it home. Not too keen on that at all. If it works, well done. It shouldn't. There's a lot of reasons why just picking your server up and taking it home is a bad plan. So please try not to do that. And if you've done it and it's working, great. But check with your techie. Make sure it's set up right, so it's not going to fall over on you at some point. VPN is another method that we're seeing quite a lot of. The most common thing we're seeing is where someone picks up their work computer, sets it up with a VPN, takes it home, they connect to this VPN from their house, and then suddenly they can do all the normal stuff they would have been able to do in the office, but from home on their work computer. If that's using a piece of software called a VPN, which may have other names, it's not something we recommend for the long term. VPNs are great if you have, let's say, a company of 5 or 10 people and you've got 1 or 2 people using it. But if you suddenly got the whole workforce dialing in remotely, we've seen examples of 40, 50 computer networks where everyone suddenly takes their computer home and tries to make it work from their house using a VPN. The issue with that is what's known as bandwidth. That's effectively how big the pipe for your internet is. And if you've got 50 meg line in your office, 50 megabytes speed, and you're sharing that between 50 people, no matter how fast an internet line is at home, the bottleneck's going to be your office broadband, and they're only going to get 1 meg each. So VPNs are a good temporary solution. They're not what we recommend for the long term. Another one we're seeing a lot of is remote control. It's a pretty nice solution. It's a way of sort of jump starting how to work remotely. What you do for remote control is you leave your computer in the office, you equip it with some little software tool, and then you go home, find another computer, could be a home PC, could be a temporary machine, specially for the purpose. You load up the remote control software, and suddenly you're controlling your computer in the office. That's quite a nice interim solution. It's not what we recommend for the long term. The remote control methods, there are a couple of issues. One, my most fun one is at the end of the day, you're done with your work and you say, shut down. And then suddenly the computer that's in your office is now switched off. And then you need someone to go into the office to turn it back on. The other thing with VPN and remote control is if you've got any equipment in your office that's still switched on, if there's no one in your office, you should check with your insurance company. Let's see how they feel about the office being unattended and equipment being left switched on. Our insurance company wanted us to turn off all the power, all the gas, everything. So it's just one to bear in mind. Depending on how long this lasts, you may need to bear in mind that just dialing into equipment that's left switched on in your office isn't necessarily the right way forward. However, they're a method that a lot of companies have been using for a quick fix so far. The next solution is full cloud. Oddly enough, a lot of very, very small companies and a lot of larger companies are full cloud. That's where every single thing your computer does is cloud-based. You do not need a server. You do not have a server. Your whole business can run just off your laptop from a coffee shop anywhere in the world. We've told a lot of our customers to do that have had this technology. Pick up your computer, go home. That's complicated as it's needed to be for them. Some companies are ready for that. Some are not. And I recommend you have a conversation with your IT people and find out where you're at now and how you can migrate to a model. Now's a pretty good time if you wanted to go to a model where you didn't need a server anymore. It's less disruptive for businesses because there's less people at work. And you should ask your techies what they recommend. Next, communication with your colleagues. This is a really important one for the well-being and the health of all your colleagues and the success of the company. The visibility, having information flow to and fro is really important. I'm going to divide this up into 2 sections. Firstly, business grade, and I'll go through the 3 technologies that we recommend to people right now. First one, Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is amazing. It comes with the Microsoft 365 platform. It's really good to communicate with your colleagues. You can also use it to communicate with your customers. Zoom meetings, congratulations, you are in a Zoom meeting / webinar right now. Google Hangouts, that's Google's answer to Teams. So, Google and Microsoft, the big rivals. Google have got Hangouts, Microsoft have got Teams. They're sort of equivalent. So those are the business grade solutions. Now, not everyone can use them. They're not for everybody and not every company wants them. So here's the consumer grade tools. These are a little more basic, but unless I'm mistaken, yeah, they're all free. So WhatsApp groups, add all your colleagues to a WhatsApp group. You can have a mass video call if you want. You can have a mass phone call if you want. I think there is a limitation on WhatsApp of 4 people, I believe. 4. Facebook Messenger groups, they're pretty good as well. They can be a lot of fun. You've been seeing a lot of pictures online recently of people all gathering in a Facebook group chat. Where they've used the Facebook filters, and you've had people turning themselves into potatoes and carrots and other, mostly vegetables, really. Facebook Messenger, that's quite a simple solution. It's a good one for small businesses. I wouldn't recommend this to any company if you're more than about 5 or 6 people. I'd start saying if you're more than about 5 or 6 people, start using something like Teams. That's a more appropriate professional solution. But Facebook and WhatsApp, they do work. Skype, brilliant. Skype. In the last couple of weeks or in the last month, I've seen piano lessons, singing lessons, pole dancing lessons, baby clubs, or Weight Watchers, all suddenly using Skype. I've also seen them using Zoom as well. Both can work absolutely fine. Discord is another tool that's generally used by people for computer gaming, but it is quite a powerful tool to just be able to run it on your computer and then 15 people drop into the room and they're all suddenly collaborating and talking to one another. It's a really lovely piece of tech. I'm just checking. Yeah, just checking the messages. Not had any Q&A yet, but we've had a couple of private chat messages, so I'm just checking them. Another thing about these communication tools, Zoom is free for 40 minutes. That's a lot of meetings don't need to be that long. So I'll tell you how EPX does it. My company, we meet 3 times a day. So we have 3 daily meetings, each last between 5 and 15 minutes. So that's, what's that now? 15 meetings a week, about 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long each. It's not actually as long as you'd think, considering that we now have found our 2-hour weekly management meeting and our 1-hour weekly techie meeting, our finance meeting, and our bi-weekly staff meeting, all of which have been, well, we've not cancelled them yet, but they've been as good as cancelled because we don't need the big meetings anymore. We need the big meetings for certain decisions, but when we know that the entire team is collaborating for 5 to 10 minutes every day, everyone's completely apprised of the situation, communication is very much improved, everyone's focused on a common goal, which for us has been setting up remote work a lot for the last 3-4 weeks now. It's been quite intense. But everyone's aware, everyone's communicating with one another. So these daily meetings are absolutely wonderful for businesses, and I would recommend them to anybody. Oh, and you can do them for free. If you've got Microsoft Office 365, congratulations, you've got Teams, you can do it. If you want to buy Zoom or sign up for the free license of Zoom, you can do that too. So we've covered communicating between all of your colleagues and staff members. So next is communicating with your customers. To start with, we're going to do telephone and email, and then the next slide is going to be about video meetings. So firstly, if your company has a phone system, have you got one of those little VoIP apps on your phone? VoIP applications, generally you'll find that your phone system will come with these little tools, which means that your mobile or a colleague's mobile is now the same as the extension on their desk. It just works. It's nice and simple to set up. It should be easygoing. If you've got that, use it. It's fantastic. If you don't have that, if you've got an older phone system, which yeah, you probably if you don't have a VoIP module on your system, it could be showing its age. But there is a way to forward every single extension in every single phone system I've ever seen. You can forward each extension to a mobile phone. Bear in mind, if you do that, each call forwarded takes up 2 of your lines. One for the call coming into the phone system and one for the forwarding to the mobile. And of course, as it forwards, it's costing you pence per minute to do that. So just be mindful. The other thing is I would recommend you have your colleagues configure their mobile phones to withhold their number. Because if you're asking them to make calls on behalf of your company from a mobile that isn't their regular number, it won't be long before their mobile number gets into people's phone books and people start calling them directly all the time. And that may cause a process problem or may lead to people getting just called at all hours. It's not something I recommend. It's really, really easy to withhold your number on a mobile phone. Ask me if you want. I can cover that in Q&A if you wish. Next, if you do not have a phone system at all, you just got a normal phone in your office or you got a normal phone wherever it may be, no problem. You just forward all your calls if you want. There are 3 things that you can forward your calls to that I recommend. Firstly, you can forward all your calls to a mobile. For the attendee of this webinar with more than 100 members of staff, I don't recommend you forward your main number to one person's mobile. That person probably won't like you very much. But for the smaller companies with 3 or 4 people, just forward everything to a mobile. That could be a good way of doing it. With a lot of landlines, I think the number is you dial *21*, and then you can configure call forwarding on a normal landline. Alternatively, instead of forwarding to a mobile, you can forward to a phone system in the cloud. They're really easy to set up. We can deploy phone systems now in about 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the complexity. But phone systems in the cloud they're pretty much the way to go, the way forward. And they all come with VoIP apps. So if you have the ability to do that, and ask me if you want any pointers on how. Alternatively, if you're concerned because maybe the team's furloughed, maybe you're not sure of what process, then you can forward it to a call answering service. And we do that with our out of hours calls. All our calls get forwarded to a telephone call answering service. Now these are still, well, I can speak for the one I use, that they're still running. They were scheduled to be on this meeting, but I don't see them in the room. That's a shame. But if you want any pointers, I can recommend some telephone call answering services that would be able to take the workload of the phone call if you have to be closed. Next, on your phone system, record a custom greeting. You can either have your phone system as normal, so that everyone's just serviced as they would normally be, or you can set up a custom greeting to say, hello, we'll be back in 2 weeks, we'll be back in 3 weeks, please email us, we're still in business, everything's still going okay. Times of recession, which this, I'm afraid, most certainly is/will be. In times of recession, people sometimes, when they stop hearing from companies, they have assumptions. If they've been hearing a lot about companies closing down, they might think, well, I haven't heard about them in a while. Are they still running? So it's just one to be aware of. Recommend communicating with people, automatic messages on your phone system. And talking of automated messages, this section's about email now, E and F. Auto forward and auto reply. Set up your email to auto reply if you're closed, just so that the people trying to get in touch with you, they know you're still around, you're just on temporary hold or on temporary shutdown. If you're not on temporary shutdown, but calls might be slower or delayed, it's worth setting up an auto reply on your email as well. In my webinar of last week, there were a lot of links at the end that you can use to know how to do this. And again, I can tell you how to do that if you need. Finally, remote access to email. I've already mentioned this once. If you can get email on your phone, you're pretty much most of the way there. Because if you can get email on your phone, you'll be able to get it on your laptop. If you're on Office 365, which a large chunk of businesses are, then you just go to www.office.com and you can log on with your normal information there. You can also get Teams that way too. Next, communicating with customers through video conferencing. So firstly, Microsoft Teams and Zoom. I've gone on about that too much. I won't go on it again, but I will say people are rarely late to a scheduled web meeting. It's a little different to an in-person meeting. You're generally not kept around waiting. And I've actually, I have been doing sales and marketing while we've been all remote working, and I have my first customer meeting obtained in the last week or so that is only taking place via Teams. We're not going to meet in person for obvious reasons, but that's still happening. And there's a slight advantage is that most companies in the UK or around the world now are almost now used to the idea of meeting people via Teams or Zoom or Hangouts. They're used to the idea of not meeting in person. Buy a webcam if you can. It's much easier to conference with people using a camera and seeing their face, hello, than just over the phone. If you're having trouble getting webcams, mobile phones have webcams built in, laptops have them built in, that's what I'm using. And if you really are stuck for a camera, but your house contains an Xbox, those funky Xbox cameras about that long, they work. They work with Windows PCs. So you should be able to use a camera from an Xbox if you're really stuck for a webcam. Test your microphone and speaker. I tested my microphone in conference, and I hope everyone can hear okay. It worked when I tested it. But watch out for background noise. We use noise cancelling microphones at work, but I have seen a lot of the little wire that comes with your phone, the little headphones, a little microphone about there. I've seen people using those. They're okay, but they're not the greatest. The brand that I recommend if you're looking for good headsets to use in the long term, in fact, here's one I prepared earlier. This is made by a company called Plantronics. Don't have a model number, but Plantronics just make these nice headphones with noise cancelling. They're really, really good tech. And I know it's a bit hypocritical that I'm not actually using that. The headset's actually connected to my PC in case my laptop has a problem. So test the background noise levels. It's well worth doing. Additionally, I'm going to cover a little bit on conference etiquette. In our company, we have implemented an entire etiquette list for conferences. It may seem a bit petty, but it's so important. Things like no dressing gowns, try and keep the cat off the keyboard, try and keep the background noise level down, mute your microphone if you're not talking. That's a really important one. lots of companies don't do that. We've seen examples of certain online classes with 10, 15 people, all of whom have the microphone switched on. If you're the presenter of a webinar or a web conference, you should be able to mute the other attendees if you need to. You can't unmute them, mind you. They have to do that. It's a way of making sure you can't just turn a microphone on in someone's house. So mute the microphone, keep the background noise down, and if you can, do your meetings in a room with a closed door. It makes life much easier. The other bit of conference etiquette is how you dress. This is a nice little article from the interweb. This is what happens when you share your sales data. Walmart says that shirt sales have soared. Lots of shirts being sold, but no trousers. So it looks like a lot of people are looking very professional from the top half up. I am wearing all my professional clothes today, but people are getting spotted. But that's okay. Just make sure you look the part on camera, clean up, etc., etc. Next, errors may happen. Yes, errors may happen. It happens. Don't worry. This is a transitional time. Here's one of our favorite families in the world. You may all recognize this fellow from a couple of years ago. He's infamous now. He was giving a talk a week or two ago on remote working with his whole family, who were climbing all over him. It was great. Mistakes happen, errors happen. Don't worry too much about it. We're all adjusting. So now I've covered that, I'm going to cover a little bit about sharing the internet line. This is assuming you're now in your home. We're now transitioning, by the way, from how to work remotely to what you should do now that you are working remotely. So if you're sharing your internet line at home, this is just a little hint and tip for what happens if you're having some speed issues. Behold, a graph. So this, Fortnite, Minecraft, Destiny 2, Zoom, and Netflix, these are all common services, and I'm going to tell you how much bandwidth they take up so that you know who to tell to get off the internet. If for some reason you're having your conference calls are breaking up a bit, or your video streams are jamming up and you're finding video conferencing difficult, here's what's using the most internet in your house. So, kids playing games, Fortnite, Minecraft, Destiny, 100 meg an hour. That's 100 megabytes of data per hour for playing Fortnite, which, just so you know, is not a lot. Same with Minecraft. Destiny 2, that was, I do not know what Destiny 2 is. I'm sure it's a fun game, but I do not know. And I'm a techie, I should know. That was the most bandwidth intensive game I could find when I was looking at the numbers. So it's probably not the kids playing games that's slowing the internet down. One thing I would want to caveat to that, though, is if you try and download a game like Fortnite, that's 35 gigabyte file. If you try and download that while someone else in the family is trying to be in a web conference, that could legitimately slow the internet down. So try not to download new games while you're giving a conference, or make sure the family are aware of that. Zoom meetings. This meeting you're in right now, the bandwidth it's using is about 810 meg an hour. So that's the same as 10 people playing Fortnite in your house. But finally, the biggest and most intensive bandwidth sucker, Netflix. 3 gig, 3000 meg, 3 gig an hour used to watch Netflix. That's not even at 4K resolution. The 4K high resolution video, I think Netflix have disabled that. There may be exceptions. I think Netflix have actually disabled high-res video streaming for the sake of the work applications people are using. So Netflix is probably going to be what's slowing your internet down if you're trying to do a web conference and it's freezing up on you. Alternatively, the other things to bear in mind, if you're on a computer in your home, try and use a wire to connect to your router. I know you may not have a wire that length, but a 20-meter network cable is probably about 18 to 25 pounds online. And a 10-meter one is about £5. So you should be able to plug your computer in with a wire. If you are on a laptop, like I am right now, which does not have a network connection, which mine does not, that's okay. Just bear in mind that you should try and use a wire where you can. It will help. Next is, if you find for any reason that you're really, really struggling, you can use tethering on a mobile phone. Now, a lot of mobile phone providers, so tethering is where you turn your phone into a wireless hotspot and it has its own internet connection. Some providers are better than others at this. Check your signal strength. If you've got 4G with full signal on your phone, you should be okay. Double check, though, with your mobile provider what your data allowance is. My data allowance has recently been upgraded to 40 gig a month, which is, that's spot on. That would be rather handy for some web conferences, for doing some work online, but just don't leave it untethered all the time. It's sort of a backup plan. The mobile phone networks actually have got a lot better in the last few weeks because so many more people are now at home with their devices all connected to their home Wi-Fi. So they're not actually putting a lot of load on the mobile phone network. So mobile data is at its peak right now. It's working pretty well. Next, the busiest time of day for web conferences and the times you should try and avoid giving web conferences, yes, I spot the joke, are 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. So this web conference today that started at 2 p.m., yeah, I probably should have started at 3, my apologies. But that's the busiest time of day for Zoom and Teams and Hangouts meetings. That's when you're seeing the most, the morning meetings are normally occurring, or the mid-afternoon catch-up. So I'm going to summarize that first section. Final thoughts. If you're wanting to migrate to the cloud, list the services you need to access, work through them one by one. If you can go to a completely cloud-based model for each of them, like for example, if you have Sage on a server in your office, you can get Sage completely cloud-based. So it's things like that. Go full cloud if you can. Now is actually a good time to do it. Talk to your IT people, talk to your techies, talk to me. Ask how do you recommend implementing remote work? They will have good knowledge of your network. They'll be able to give you good advice. And if they can't, ask me. Use tools for remote collaboration. This, making sure that you and your colleagues can all communicate with each other, is really, really important. And bear in mind that Zoom, when you buy Zoom, or when you sign up for Zoom, 40-minute meetings are free. Although I would support them and try and actually buy it if you use it. But if you're on Microsoft Office 365, you get Teams for free. Okay, the next section. Security when remote working. Why is there a dinosaur? Because padlock icons are boring, and I've done enough security presentations. Okay, firstly, I'm going to cover Zoom. This is a picture that appeared on the internet this week. Behold, our noble government. This is a screenshot that was sent out by Boris Johnson. It may have been actually a week ago. When was this? The 31st, so just over a week ago. There are a few takeaways we can take from this. There was a lot of mockery online about the fact that the meeting ID was sent out. So I need to tell you about Zoom bombing. This is is funny and not. Depends on the context. Zoom bombing is when a random person joins your meeting just by typing in random Zoom meeting IDs. That can be funny, but what they may then do is not. Depending on, it could be a sensitive meeting, could be an online classroom, and when someone starts joining a meeting and being highly inappropriate, it's just not right, especially because those people who do not put passwords on the Zoom meetings may not know how to kick them out. So password protect your Zoom meetings. If you're going to have a meeting with Zoom, put a password on it, even if it's just, the letter A, just put something on there. Now, a lot of people mocked Boris Johnson when he tweeted this, but the fact is, I believe there was a password on that room. Yes, I tried. So the other thing, if you're going to give away your Zoom meeting ID, there you go, right in the middle, you can see michael.gov739. That's probably his username now. And in cybersecurity terms, don't give away your username en masse, especially if you're a public figure. It's just a silly little thing, The next thing, when you're joining a web conference, try and choose an appropriate name for yourself. Give yourself a name so people know who you are. That person was named iPhone. I've just had a comment here that made me giggle that you tried. Yes, of course I've tried. Of course I tried. Most IT people tried to type in that Zoom ID number. Of course we did. Yes, sorry. The iPhone. That person in the bottom right-hand corner who's named themselves iPhone. If you're joining a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or a webinar of some kind, pick an appropriate name so people know who's talking, especially if you notice just next to that iPhone ID, it has a picture of a microphone with a cross through it and a camera with a cross through it. So that person had no microphone and no camera. Oh, sorry. They had no camera. They were on mute. So when they talked, how do you know who they are? It's just quite inconvenient. That's another one of conference etiquette. However, one area where our government succeeded on conference etiquette, look at all those microphone icons. Those are all muted. Every attendee had muted themselves except Cabinet Room, Prime Minister, and DEFRA. And that's another one I recommend. If you're going to be in a Zoom meeting, mute yourself. I've covered that enough. So another security thing to watch out for is scams. Scams are terrible right now. There is a good news, bad news situation now. Good news, we are in a golden age. Bad news, it is a golden age for hackers. Imagine that now every single company on the planet almost has suddenly opened the floodgates to remote work. That means that anyone on their team can log in and work. It also means anyone with a password can log in and work. So if you haven't been looking after your cybersecurity and your passwords are somewhere out there, your company is more vulnerable now than ever before. It is a golden age for hackers. So there are going to be some useful hints and tips coming up about that. Coronavirus themed spam surged 14,000% in 2 weeks. This was dated March the 30th, so 9 days ago. Yeah, there's a significant amount of scam emails come through. I'm going to show you a couple. Here is an email from Mr. John DeFranco. How to protect your friends. Click on this highly suspicious link. Gov.uk. We have taken steps. We're going to give you money. Click on this suspicious link. Don't click on the link. World Health Organization. Here is some advice. No, don't click on that. Another one from Gov.uk, another one from whoever this is, another one from Singapore Specialist. So these are the sorts of things we're seeing a lot of these. Now, cybercrime is just like marketing. They're just saying, okay, how can we get more people? How can we improve our conversion rate on our junk mail? That's what it is. Well, let's change the title to be topical. You're seeing people doing this with marketing at the moment. So keep an eye out. Make sure your team is aware. If you want, take a picture of that screen with your phone, take a screenshot with the print screen button, just take a picture, send it out to people, warn people of the sort of things that are out there, and try and follow the golden rule. Don't click on links in email. Now, unfortunately, you're probably seeing a lot of invites being sent out right now from Zoom. You were probably invited to this very meeting today from a Zoom email, which said, welcome to this Zoom meeting, click on this, and then type in this pin. Try to be careful clicking on links in emails. Warn your colleagues about this. If you click on a link in an email, you'd better know it's taking you to a legitimate place. Normally, you can just leave the mouse hovering over the link and it'll come up. But there's been something like, I believe, 2,000 or 3,000 Zoom and Teams themed domain names registered. Things like join-zoom-meeting.com. So they'll send a nasty email to you. It'll say, join our meeting. It'll have a legitimate looking web address. When you click on it, it'll say, install Zoom. But it's not Zoom, it's a virus. So keep an eye out for this kind of thing. Remain vigilant, warn your colleagues. If you want, we have some tools that we can give you that will fake these. They'll send out fake phishing attacks to people. And if they fall for it, it'll flash up on their screen saying, you've just fallen for this, you must watch this safety video. And it'll also alert their manager. There are loads of tools out there. Ask your techies. You don't need to come to me. Ask your techies about phishing training. Phishing spelled PH. Right. Okay. A little bit on domestic cybersecurity. This is a bleak slide. This is going to tell you how bad everything is. So I apologize for that. We're going to have some solutions in the next slides. So an office computer generally does one or two things, like it only does Word or Excel or Outlook, or it only runs a CAD package, or it only runs your company CRM. They're pretty much job specific, right? They only do a few things. Home PCs, though, home computers, wow, they're using everything. They'll have Steam installed on there for games. They'll have some games installed, some photo editors, video editing tools. They'll have Netflix on there. That's where you go and visit your suspect websites of the night. But you also may do remote working from your home PCs as well. So this is the same computer that you use for all your domestic activities you're now using for corporate. And one really important thing to bear in mind is the way people browse the internet on a home PC is very different to a work PC. You visit websites that you'd never visit on a work PC. And things like watchafreemovieonline.com, things like that, where you can watch movies completely free, no strings attached, but you just need to install our viewer. Yeah, I'll get onto why that's a bad idea in a minute. The thing is, if you take a work PC home, or your colleagues do, bear in mind they may treat it, and so might oneself, you may treat it a little more like a home PC. I, for one, have used this very laptop, which is a work-only laptop. My Netflix account's logged in. Now, Netflix in itself isn't bad, but you may find other things, other tools, other websites you could visit which are worse. You know, you may, if you're installing games and things, your favorite things like that, try not to do it on a work PC, or should I say, try not to do it on a PC where you are also doing work. Home users are less careful about browsing the web. Yes. So I've mentioned this you will find that the sort of websites designed for domestic use are subject to vulnerabilities. When an attacker is attacking a business, they'll try and email you. When an attacker is attacking a home computer, they'll just try and leave traps out there for you to fall into, like, you know, a slight misspelling of a website that you know, but is actually a compromised virus website. Additionally, software piracy is very common on home PCs. I remember it was many years ago, there was a game called Video Game Tycoon, and it was estimated that something like 95% of all players had not paid for it. They downloaded it illegally. So you see a lot of piracy on home PCs, and a lot of people say, oh, well, it's only this, it's only that. Oh, it's only Photoshop I'm using for some family editing. Why would they care? Well, maybe they wouldn't care. But wherever you downloaded it from, can you trust it? Can you phone them up and ask for your money back? How do you know there isn't a Trojan or a keylogger or a virus hooked into that file? Now, for those of you, point 3, work PCs at home may be treated like home PCs. If you are working for a company that has corporate machines that are at home, good. If you are full cloud, your company will likely to be able to put some restrictions and policies in place to make sure that you can't overuse your home computer and introduce vulnerabilities. So just be mindful that if you are running a company and you're worried about your colleagues using your work computers improperly, you should be able to roll out some security patches from where you're based. Again, talk to your techies, or for advice from myself, my main one would be strong corporate antivirus software and what's known as DNS filtering. There's a little bit on that later. Right, so downloading and installing dodgy stuff leads to keyloggers. This is software that can be found. This is quite a common type of virus. It's a bit like a virus. It's a bad thing you don't want. So a keylogger is a silent piece of software that sits on your computer, recording everything that you type. It is specifically interested in passwords, email addresses, 16-digit numbers you might type in. That's a credit card number. Websites that you visit. And what do they do with all this stuff? They sell it. Or they use it for their own ends, but a lot of the time it's sold on the dark web. Just an example of some costs of data. I can buy basic information on a human being for about $12. $27 for a copy of their driving license, $18 for a copy of their passport, and for their corporate VPN, $8. So this is the sort of thing that happens out there on the dark web, where your private information, if hackers gain access to it, they sell it. And it may be sold for a year before they actually use it. That kind of thing happens. We're still seeing people get their LinkedIn accounts hacked from the time LinkedIn was breached, I don't know, 10 years ago? 7 to 10 years ago, I think, where passwords are out there on the net for your LinkedIn account. If you haven't changed your LinkedIn account in the last 7 years, shame on you, change it now. If you wish, I can do a dark web scan for your company. It will tell us what passwords of yours are it will give me a list of passwords that it can find that are out there on the dark web, which is any vulnerable, that's where a breach may have occurred and your credentials are out there. So I've spent 2 slides now telling you all about bleak things and doom and horrible situations. So here is a nice practical solution to it. 2-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication is one of the first ones. 2-factor authentication, or I'm going to call it MFA. MFA is based upon the principle of something you know and something that you have. Something you know, that is your password. Something that you have, it could be a phone with a tool on it. It could be a USB stick. It could be a little key ring with an 8-digit code that changes every minute. Banks have had this for many years. Why is this useful? It means if I was to tell you my password now, I'm not going to, and neither should you. If I was to tell you my password right now, you would still need to have my phone in order to gain access. Everything my company uses, everything at EPX needs two-factor. Every cloud-based service we've possibly got relies upon two-factor. So if our passwords are found out by anybody, we can still use our systems. Some systems are protected by more than two-factor, depending on how critical they are. Some need you to press accept on a phone and type in a PIN that was emailed to someone else. You can go crazy with this if you want, but I simply recommend, if you don't already have two-factor or MFA, use it. Now, just about everything has it. Facebook has it, Gmail has it, LinkedIn has it, most CRMs have it, Xero has it, Sage has it, and most online banking tools have it, which leads me to a nice takeaway. If a cloud service does not have multi-factor, it's dangerous. Don't trust it. And that's actually a pretty serious thing. Some places, some institutions still don't. So here is just a couple of pictures of Microsoft's two-factor tool. So the one on the left, that's Microsoft about to send you a text message. I don't recommend the text message route, but sometimes if it's the only option, fine. That's where when you log on to a thing, they send you a text message to your mobile phone. You then read your mobile phone, you take the pin off it, and you type it into the screen. It means now that it guarantees, or almost guarantees, that you are in the presence of your phone. Next is where you have an app on your phone and it releases a code every 30 seconds, and you take that code and you type it into the website. And finally, the most easy one, which is incredibly common, is where you try and log on to your web-based service and your phone just flashes up to say deny or approve. Click approve and you're good to go. Now, there are free multi-factor tools and there are chargeable multi-factor tools. I favor a product called Duo, which is one of the chargeable ones, because it allows you to do all sorts of policy things, like it will remove itself from a phone of someone who's left the company. You can temporarily disable it, things like that. So that's multi-factor. It is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. The most powerful tool, by the way, being to train your staff to not open emails and to have a decent password. You don't need to change your password every month anymore. You just need to have a good one. 20-character password is really, really good. And you may think I'm crazy to say 20 characters, but if you was to do something like pintglass@greywall.com 95, something like that, that's an incredibly long password. It's got numbers, letters, symbols, and if you type pintglass in capitals, then congratulations, you've got a pretty solid password. It would be nice if you could include something a little more obscure than that, and definitely don't broadcast it in a webinar to people telling you that this is going to be your password. So, long passwords, good training, multi-factor. Next, the family at home. This is about you sharing your network with family members. Kids on the internet, a lot more. Is kids being on the internet more frequently. They're going to be playing the same old games they've always played, but it's going to get boring quick. You can't constantly play the same game all the time. It's going to get boring in the end, and they will then start exploring the web and start having a look around pages they don't normally go on. So more internet time is happening right now, more websites than ever before. What they normally do with their computers getting boring. Try and steer them towards e-learning instead of whatever they may be interested, whatever bad things. The chances of hitting virused websites are higher than usual. Now, a tool that I recommend, I do have a link for at the end of the presentation, and if you download the PDF version, when it goes up on my website later on, there is a link to it. It's called a DNS filter. There's one by a company called OpenDNS. It's free for domestic use, and it's designed to filter sort of naughty websites. It's a nice one to consider for the family anyway, whether it's a remote working situation or not. It's just a useful tool. So at the end in the links, OpenDNS is a good little filter. And the good thing about OpenDNS over a lot of the other ones, it's got good, clear instructions about how to actually set it up. Right. You are sharing your Your work PC is sitting on the same network as your home PC. If your home PC gets breached, it's not necessarily your work one's going to get breached, but it increases the chances. What some hackers do is when they're onto one PC, they use it as a beachhead to try and break into the next one. So just be mindful. You want to keep your home PC protected as well as your work one. Your work PC, for the 60 odd % of you that have your work PC at home, your work PC is now on the same network as, oh, well, now let me come up with a list here. It could be the home PC. It could be your CCTV camera that cost £45 from eBay and you've never updated it ever. It could be a smart lighting system, which has never been updated ever. You're sharing a network with lots of potential new risks that your PC was not expecting to be sharing a network with. Now, I try and advise all of our customers that the second you take a work PC out of the office, it is vulnerable. That's just one to be very, very mindful of. Protect your work PC. Assume it is always in dangerous territory. It's similarly dangerous if you go to a hotel and the hotel haven't got a good Wi-Fi system to protect all users from one another. It's still vulnerable. Don't see many people going to hotels now, but assume your home network is a relatively unsafe environment. Make sure your computers have business grade security. Most of you will have it, so you'll all be good there. But still, if you don't have a business grade security package, get one. If your security software on your laptop has anywhere in the title this one dangerous word, change it. And the one dangerous word you're looking for is free. AVG free, Sophos free, whatever it is free. If you've got a free antivirus program on your work computer, it's probably not licensed for it, and I wouldn't recommend it. The only exception I can think of at the moment, or I may be mistaken, but is Windows Defender. That's the Windows antivirus software. It's actually ranking pretty well these days, but still, whatever your company uses for antivirus, make sure you've got it on this computer that you're using at home. And make sure it's up to date. Make sure your IT people still have visibility over it. Make sure it's still being looked after. Next. Yeah, I know you can trust those in your house, but not necessarily from accidents, from accidentally plugging in the wrong USB stick, from just checking out that little fact I wanted to check on this computer because it's here, instead of going upstairs to get my own. Lock your PC when it's not in use. Don't lock it now. Don't lock it right now because, yeah, I'm giving a presentation now. But if you hold down the Windows key on your keyboard, normally in the bottom left, and press the letter L, it will lock your computer. And in order to use it again, you'll need whatever password you typed in to turn your computer on today. So to sum up that section, oh my, this has taken a while. The last section is the shortest, you'll be pleased to know. So section summary, be on the lookout for scams and make sure your colleagues are on the lookout for scams as well. If you want to try phishing tests out, let me know. Cool, we can do it. Next, make sure you have good antivirus on your work computer and that it's updated and that your techies are keeping an eye on it. Try and have a clear boundary between what is a work computer and what is a home computer. Try not to do home stuff on your work computer. Try not to phone up your techies saying, I'd really like admin rights of my work PC because it's in my house. Why? It should do everything it used to do. Just, if you're not allowed to install software on your work computer, good. Try not to. Try just keeping it for work. Use multi-factor whenever possible and lock your computer when it's not in use. Right, okay. Last section, the long term. Last section is the long term. So, an overview on the section. Firstly, who led the digital transformation of your company? Was it A, the CEO, B, the CTO, or C, COVID-19? I know a lot of companies who've had a significant amount of IT progression in the last month. People who've been meaning to do things for ages and they just haven't got round to it. So that's just one to bear in mind. A lot of companies have changed recently. Okie dokie. So you're working remotely, now what? What are you going to do? I've already covered a lot of the security elements. Now I'm going to cover a little more of the business process elements. A lot of solutions that have been put in place have been quick fixes. They've been really, really quick fixes to say, ooh, eek, let's go home quickly. Don't know how long this is going to last. I'm working under the basis that it's a long term. So all the solutions we're implementing for ourselves and for any customers who are willing to do it, we're trying to say, okay, you've got your quick fix. You've got your temporary solution in, you're all working. Let's make it easier. Let's make it normal. Let's treat this as if it's going to go on forever. Hopefully it will not go on forever. How are you going to make it work in the long term? That's the discussion. So the first thing we try and recommend is those customers who are interested in full cloud. I mentioned full cloud at the beginning. I said that there was take your server home, VPN, remote desktop, full cloud. Full cloud, this is what we recommend to every single company that we look after and everyone else, every customer we don't look after. Firstly, it's a nice simple path. Get your email on Office 365. Now, this is an Office 365 and Microsoft-centric bit of advice. So if you're Google fans, there is a similar path for yourselves, but I'm not a big Google user myself, so you'll need to ask someone else if you're a Google fan. But with Microsoft, step one, email. Get it on the 365 platform. Start checking email from www.office.com. You can also install Outlook on your computer and connect it to Office 365. Now, most people will already have this. Most of you out there, you'll already be doing this. If for any reason you're having trouble getting to Outlook from your home computer, just try going to office.com. But again, be careful which computers you go on and be sure to sign out afterwards. So once you're on the 365 platform, collaboration, that's the next step. That's where we need to look into Microsoft Teams because it comes free with the 365 platform. And that's where we should consider moving your phone system to the cloud. There's lots of ways to do this. And I apologize, I forgot to mention this last week, and I didn't see someone had suggested it into the end. Your phone system can actually live within Microsoft Teams. You can use Teams as a phone system. This has been out for ages in the US, but it was about sometime towards the beginning of February it came out in the UK. It's been out in various forms before then, but you can now actually use Microsoft Teams as your phone system. And if you wish to, you can have a headset on your desk and no phone, or you can still have a phone on your desk like normal. It can just be completely natural. So once you're emailing and collaborating using 365, that's when the file sharing comes in. This is normally one of the biggest reasons people have a server in their building, somewhere to store all your documents, all your files. Well, SharePoint is a product that comes free with 365. Stick on there, get all your files moved across to it. OneDrive will handle your desktop and your My Documents folder. SharePoint will handle all your shared folders. We can help you out with that, but we definitely recommend it. Finally, is tidying it all up, having some control mechanisms in place. This is where you have user accounts on the cloud, security policies on the cloud, security policies like saying you can't save to this folder. The accounts drive is private, or setting it up so that when you log onto your computer for the first time, it automatically sets you up with your shared folders, automatically installs all your software. And if for any reason there's a new network drive for quality control or whatever it may be, it suddenly appears. That is the last step to go serverless. Now, just so you know, the diagram you see before you, that covers around about 80% of businesses out there. 80%, so that's a pretty good number. The only things that you generally would need a server for, but there is a way to do it serverless, there is a way. The only things you'd really need a server for are line of business applications, or where Sage is installed on the server, or where you have a big SQL database. All of that, everything you could use a server for, there is a way to do it without a server in your office. There is a way to move it to the cloud. With some of our customers, we just told them, pick up your computer and go home. Now, when all this is over, are you going to have an office? Are you going to need an office? Are you going to want an office anymore? A lot of companies are asking that question right now, more than you would expect. So this may feel inappropriate, but it's got to be covered. People will be thinking it. Expansion. You may be asking yourself, why do we all need to be in the building? Is it meetings? Is it just that's where the office has always been? That's where the desk is? I can just ask my colleague a question. There are a lot of reasons to have an office. I'm recommending to people they look into why, because as I say, I've been an advocate of remote working for a long time, and the very idea that your next member of staff, if they don't need to be anywhere nearby, that's quite a powerful thing for businesses to be able to do. You can hire the top talent from anywhere in the country or the world. It depends on your business, of course. It absolutely does. Our business will definitely need a facility to receive goods, shipping and handling, but Some businesses need meeting spaces. Co-working spaces were on the rise until before all this. Co-working spaces will continue to be on the rise. The more cloud-based technology comes into the market, which now coronavirus has forced us all to go, has forced a lot of companies to go cloud-based. We're now in a situation where companies are realizing that working remotely, not everybody, but a large chunk of companies can still function completely remotely. It's largely the service industries. I have seen a few of the attendees to this webinar, and I'm aware that some of you will need in-person premises for the various business functions. But there are always exceptions, there are always ways to move certain activities to the cloud. So next step is, can you modify certain internal business processes to allow your business to work non-geographically and therefore open up your business to a much wider market? Now, a lot of the times business management systems handle all this. We use a business management system, or it could be known as a CRM, an ERP system, whatever your tool may be, whatever software and tools it is you use to run your business. If you have these, it makes it much easier to scale massively and much easier to maintain visibility over all elements of your company, process, product, procedure. So that's a really, really useful tool to have. And you probably will already have a business management system. Can you monitor how your business is working with KPIs to know if you're doing a fine job remotely? Worth checking. Definitely check it. And another advantage that we've got from a sad scenario has come. Most of the world's now being trained on how to use video conferencing. Baptism by fire, I think it's called. Did we ever need to meet people in person before? Yes, we preferred to. Body language, human interaction. But as I said, I've arranged some meetings recently, and one of them is my first brand new customer meeting, purely using online meetings. I have some customers in overseas who we've never met, and our business can function like that. Many businesses out there will be able to function like that too. It's figuring out how yours can do it. And this is an area that interests me anyway. If anyone's interested in a bit of a collaboration discussion session, I'm always happy to take a call and see if there's any advice I can give, because it could be a good way to scale. So that is the end of the section. I'm just going to do some key takeaways now, which is, can you modify your business processes to make remote working more efficient, more effective than in person? Can you make remote more effective than in person? Some character type thrive under these scenarios. Some character types do not. And it's worth finding out who is who and what you need to do in each case. Use your business management systems to help you maintain visibility of how your business is running and make sure that everyone's following the same process model. Finally, can you expand your market significantly working non-geographically? Is that something you can do? If you can, brilliant. Try it out. Are your competitors thinking the same? The final slide is the links I spoke about during the course of the presentation. The top one is OpenDNS. This is the one I recommend to protect your family from, if your kids are at home all the time, make sure they don't end up on any bad websites. That's a nice tool that can help you. I won't guarantee it, but it's a pretty good tool. If you're an Office 365 user, office.com is a really good way to access a whole lot. My previous webinar is at that link. I will probably put this webinar at that same page as well when I get access to the recording, along with this slide deck, so that you'll have this link. If you can't be bothered to find the OpenDNS link or to write it down, just search the word OpenDNS and Family Shield online. And finally, at the bottom, epx.co.uk, that's our website. Additionally, on the Q&A page, that is my LinkedIn, that is my email address. If you go to epx.co.uk, you're welcome to phone up, and if there's anything I can do to give a little bit of advice, I'm happy to volunteer my time on that. If it turns into a big project, okay, fine, we quote you for it, but I'm happy to have an informal phone call and give anyone any pointers I possibly can to help out. I'm going to have a look at the Q&As now. Feel free to write any questions and I'll pick what I can. I am aware that a person called Kelly asked a question 20 minutes ago saying, how do they get hold of this information? Apologies, can you clarify that a little? I think this might have been the dark web scan. I'm just going to leave that up on the screen. If it was the dark web scan that you were asking about, the two methods. Firstly, how can it get all your personal information to sell? It could be through all sorts of ways. Cool, it was dark web. Thank you very much, Kev. If it's how they can get your information to sell, then it would be a combination of Trojans on your computer, keyloggers on your computer. If a nasty gets on to your work PC, to your home PC, and starts logging what you're doing, that information can be made available to the hacker. Generally, I think the amount of time a virus can be on your, or a hacker can be in your system before you know it is something like 3 to 6 months in some instances, because they're busy learning information. Most of this can be easily solved, by the way. It's just having a decent antivirus program, a decent scanner. Also, if you are interested, the government have a certification called Cyber Essentials. If you run a Cyber Essentials for your business, which we can help you with, or many IT companies can help you with, if you run Cyber Essentials, then that will cover so much. That'll protect you so much. So the other way hackers can get your information to sell on the dark web is examples like famous company hacks. I think you all heard about the Marriott Hotels hack, the LinkedIn hack. MySpace was hacked some years ago. If you are storing your information with a company and that company gets hacked and your information is now for sale, that's it. So this is the biggest reason to make sure that you have a different password for different websites. Now, a lot of people say, how can I keep track of the 40 or so passwords that I'm going to need for all these different websites? And they're right, it is a pain. It is a pain to keep different passwords for all these things. So password managers are really good. There's a product called MyKey, MYKI, product called LastPass. I think Passportal is another one. Those are three. MyKey, LastPass, and Passportal. The best password is just a huge string of complicated and horrible numbers and digits that you cannot possibly memorize, that's different for every website, that's stored in a password manager. So you don't even need to remember it. You don't need to type it and copy and paste it. So you would take that same information from a password manager, copy it from the password manager, paste it to the website, and there's only one password you need to care about then, and that's the password to the password manager. The password to LastPass, that's the one you need to remember. So make it a good one, make it something long and memorable. There is a website you can go to if you're interested called How Secure Is My Password. I think it's howsecureismypassword.net. But if you Google just one solid word, How Secure Is My Password, whatever you do, don't put your actual password into it because it's a strange website. You shouldn't do that at the best of times. But you can put in a few key phrases and it will tell you just how quickly your password would be breached. In fact, just for fun here, just for fun, I'll show it to you. How secure is my password? Oh, yeah, we've just had Dashlane suggested on the Q&A by Terence. Yeah, Dashlane, another, yes. Good product. So here's how secure is my password. So if I enter the password Dan, it will take 400 nanoseconds to crack your password, which is not very long. If I type the word password, instantly, password 01, a whole day. In fairness, it probably wouldn't take a whole day because a hacker would probably just guess that. It would be one of the top 100 they'd guess. Another one, let's say, what was it now I said earlier? I think it was pint glass in capitals at greywall.com 95. 297 octillion years to crack the password. Good, I'll take that. That'll do. But whatever you do, don't put your real password into that website. Just put something that looks a bit like your password. Next, there was also another question that came through. It says, you mentioned Cyber Essentials. Is there a higher level of protection? And if so, do you recommend it? It's an interesting question. Yes, there is Cyber Essentials Plus. Cyber Essentials Basic is quite easy. Cyber Essentials Plus is a little more intense. That's where they will actually try and they'll give you a certification. When we did Cyber Essentials Plus, we had a person come over and actively try and break into our network called penetration testing. And if you're after some penetration testers, I can recommend some. I do not recommend you talk to your IT I do not recommend you hire your IT company to do the penetration testing generally, because pen testing is a reasonably specialist skill. There are a lot of pen testers out there that I can recommend that just do this for a living. Pen testing, I think they charge something like £1,000 a day with a 5-day term. So it's that kind of money. But if you do Cyber Essentials Plus, it's a reasonably inexpensive £1,500, £1,800 we spent at EPX getting Cyber Essentials Plus. It's where you do everything in Cyber Essentials and more, including some penetration tests. Additionally, the American system, NIST, N-I-S-T, that's a pretty good framework, because not only does it cover everything in Cyber Essentials, but it does a bit more. Do I recommend it? Perhaps. The thing is, the reason why I recommend Cyber Essentials is because it covers about 10 or 12 completely basic things. However, they're 10 or 12 completely basic things that like 80% of companies are not doing. So the reason I recommend Cyber Essentials is because it would bring us all up to a certain standard. Because don't forget the threat model. The threat model here, what is the main way people are breaking into our systems? Because users are clicking on silly things, because we don't have antivirus, we don't update our PCs, we have bad passwords. Cyber Essentials targets all of them, and that's why I recommend it so strongly. Okay, I think I've done this. I don't see any more. Cool. Okay, I think we're covered. I will end it there. I'm just checking in case any last minute things come up, or if I've had any text messages relevant to this. No. Okay, then in that case, I thank you all for coming. I'm going to figure out how to press stop. Oh well.